Arsenal 2, Fulham 2. Mikel Arteta can give you a heartbreak, or I can say he can make you even go to the ICU unexpectedly. However, let us look at the whole weekend and how the games fared on. First off, Chelsea versus Luton. It was a much expected win for Chelsea. They won 3-0. Their man of the match, in my opinion, was Raheem Sterling, having more than 2 goal contributions in the game. He performed well considering his age, considering the speculations around his future. He delivered for the Blue Boys. There wasn't much for Luton to do during the game, as Chelsea really played well and contained the game as expected. So Chelsea got the 3 points finally, and we're looking up to game week 4. Next up was Bournemouth versus Spurs, which was the early kickoff on Saturday. I believe the Bournemouth versus Spurs game, Maddison was their man of the match. He's really shown in the last 2-3 games that he can control the midfield with his creativity, and he can make Tottenham play up to his strength. I know Bournemouth have signed quite some exciting talents, however that is yet to be seen in terms of the results, but it's a good progress for Tottenham so far, racking up 7 out of 9 points in the last 3 games. I think they deserve to be congratulated for that. Let us wait and see what they do next in the next game. Next up was Arsenal versus Fulham. This was a game that had mixed reactions, considering first of all, Mikel Arteta started with a very unexpected formation, as seen in the last game against Crystal Palace, where he started Thomas Partey at right back, and that, in my opinion, was limiting the likes of Bukayo Saka getting the kind of support he's been getting from Ben White when he's been on the right back position. Now, there are speculations that he's trying to do that, keeping in mind that the African Cup of Nations early next year will have Thomas Partey out of the squad, and he's trying to accommodate other players so that in the event we have our African players leave for African Cup of Nations, their positions will not be a big deal to fill. However, I felt we as Arsenal Football Club made it hard for ourselves. We got ourselves into very tricky spaces and made the game difficult. However, some points that could motivate Arsenal fans is that our XG ratio, that is our attack ratio during the game, was much higher as opposed to what we've been used to before. However, we need to now convert our chances. Kai Havertz, I must say that was one of the poorest games he's played so far, and that could be seen even with Mikel Arteta taking him off in the second half. I feel he needs his confidence back, and having him as the main man will give him more pressure other than relieve pressure from him. However, one of the star and key players for that match was Fabio Vieira, who came in as a substitute. He really played well, providing even an assist for Edin Ketia. We saw him also nearly score through a bicycle kick, and I think he's knocking on the door and saying that he should be a starter other than someone who comes from the bench. So Arsenal 2, Fulham 2 wasn't the result we were expecting as Arsenal fans. However, we still maintain that record of Fulham never winning in our home turf in the last 31 games. Let us see how Arsenal will fare against Manchester United come game week 4. The other game of the day was Brentford versus Crystal Palace. Brentford has had a very good start to the season, drawing the first game against Tottenham 2-2, winning the second game against Fulham, and the third game they drew against Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace, as we have seen this season, they are really closing up spaces in between their players, so it is very hard to penetrate them. Keeping in mind the likes of Michael Olise have not yet returned to the squad due to his current injury concerns, and that can only tell you that Crystal Palace this season will be a hard team to crack. Another opinion that I had on the game was the player Kevin Shedd from Brentford. I felt he really performed well. Despite scoring a goal, he was very instrumental, and I know in the upcoming games we'll see the likes of Mbeumo and Wissa get back on the score sheet. However, 1-1 draw is what they could settle for. The next was Everton versus Wolves. I can say this was the battle of the have-nots. Battle of the have-nots because both teams have had a very poor start to the season. Everton have not yet gotten a point so far this season, and that is a worrying sign. Will Sean Dyche keep his job past 4, 5, 6 games? I doubt. They need to do something to bounce back as to have confidence. Wolves, on the other hand, have been unlucky, especially in the first game against Manchester United, which I felt they would have at least managed a draw considering they were denied a penalty. They at least tried to gather 3 points in this game. However, do you know who their man of the match was? It was their goalkeeper. He made really fine saves, and if it were not for him, they would have lost all the 3 points. Next up was Manchester United versus Nottingham. This was one of the games that Manchester United fans nearly collapsed while watching. You can imagine going 2-0 down and having to come back and fight to win 3-2. It wasn't an easy match. We know Nottingham Forest have also been strengthening, and they are going to be a threat this season as one of those teams that we can say are underdogs. They're going to give a lot of pressure, especially to the big teams when they face them. However, it's also a question of how many Manchester United players currently suit the to wear that shirt in their first 11. We had a problem with Malacia, that is on the side of Luke Shaw, who was injured. We have Mason Mount, who was also injured. However, we saw Eriksen come in and really fit in well. He also scored a goal in the process. Wan-Bissaka for me was man of the match. However, I know most fans voted for Bruno Fernandes. I know the next game versus Arsenal will be a game where we'll have to watch and see how both sides actually turn up in terms of formation, in terms of creativity, in terms of that final touch, in terms of scoring the goals and securing either 3 points or settling for a draw. However, Manchester United got the 3 points and they won 3-2. Next in line was a game that many didn't expect to end as it did. Brighton versus West Ham. Brighton won, West Ham 3. West Ham seemed to be using the money that they sold Declan Rice for in a very smart way. They have signed very instrumental players and players who've actually moved in and actually done the job within a short time. They have taken little time to settle. That is Alvarez. We have James Ward-Prowse, and now they have signed Mohamed Kudus. Their midfield is going to be really scary, adding to the fact that they have other players like Lucas Paqueta, Bowen, among others. They showed Brighton that you can possess the ball, but we will get the job done. They scored 3 important goals. However, despite West Ham playing very well, the man of the match was Areola, who's their keeper. Areola has proved to be very instrumental in this West Ham side, even if you look at the previous game that they played against Chelsea. So Brighton won, West Ham 3, and West Ham took all the 3 points. Next in line was Burnley versus Aston Villa. Sadly, Burnley have not yet gotten the 3 points. They have lost their second game. They didn't play game week 2, it was postponed. However, this was their second game and they lost 3-1 to Aston Villa. Aston Villa seemed to be faring on well, with one of their star performances coming from Moussa Diaby. Diaby, who came from Eintracht Frankfurt, has really settled in well and is actually very instrumental in the side. However, Aston Villa have a few injuries to worry about in the upcoming games, but I know with the wins that they have racked up so far, it's going to add to their confidence level. So Burnley have not yet gotten anything. Will they be relegated this season just after joining the Premier League a few months ago? It's a wait and see. Up next was Sheffield versus Man City. I know for many fans they were disappointed by one of the last minute goals scored by Man City to claim a 2-1 win over Sheffield. Sheffield, I expected them to lose with quite a big margin, I can't lie. However, they proved to be a tough nut to crack against Man City. They were defeated by Man City 2-1, courtesy of the last goal being scored by Rodri. Rodri has proven to be even more instrumental in the last few games that Man City has played, even more than Haaland. I could be wrong, but that's just my opinion. City getting the 3 points now makes them win 3 out of 3, and they are on top of the standings with 9 points. Guardiola, we know very well he had an operation and he'll be back to the City bench possibly after the international break. We wish him a quick recovery, but it seems to be very little that could prevent City from winning. Up next, and the last game that was a cracker, was Newcastle versus Liverpool. Did you know Newcastle lost to 10-man Liverpool? Liverpool played most part of the game without their star defender, that is Virgil van Dijk. They scored an early goal through Anthony Gordon, However, the brilliance of Darwin Núñez took all the 3 points to the Merseyside team. Is it that Liverpool are back to their level best? Should we consider them a threat this season? Should we consider them title contenders? I think time will tell. However, winning with 10 men, that is commendable. We cannot lie about that. Game week 4 is coming. Lots of tight games. However, the key game in game week 4 will be Manchester United versus Arsenal at the Emirates. Till next time, remember to subscribe, comment, share, and keep on engaging us. It's the Blackbeard.